And then as soon as they wanted to open the hatch, the cosmonaut and astronaut who were with me told me, "Are you ready for the smell of space? Because it's a very unique smell, and this is the only time you can smell it." So I was ready there, and they opened the hatch, and I took a good whiff, and it smelled something like a burnt cookie. And I kept telling them, "It feels weird. It's very
People
unique."
are baking in space.
I know.
When they opened the hatch, did Dragon have that new car smell?
It absolutely did. In fact, there was a little bit of space smell in the vestibule, and then when we got that hatch open, you could tell it was a brand new vehicle. Space smell.
Things don't smell the same.
Their burnt steak and gunpowder smell that many astronauts report in the airlock. That's one of the few smells you can smell strongly.
You're inside the spaceship most of the time. The only time you could smell space is when you come back in from a spacewalk. And as you repressurize the airlock and open the hatch, there's a distinctive smell to it. And it smells a little bit like being on a shooting range, like that sort of lingering gunpowder cordite smell. So maybe a little bit like brimstone. A little bit like brimstone. That's what it smells.
Owen from San Francisco says, "They say that the sense of smell creates the strongest memories for a person. What does the ISS smell like, and what scent do you miss on Earth?" The ISS, we've got a really good filtering system. There's air flowing. In fact, everything you hear when you're up here is fans going and air circulating. So we're constantly getting a fresh supply of oxygen. We're constantly getting the carbon dioxide scrubbed and all the other things filtered out. So it really doesn't smell, although when we first docked with the shuttle, there was a noticeable smell, but you get accustomed to it very quickly, so I can't tell anything anymore. There's one smell up here that's really unique, though, and that is the smell. We just call it the smell of space, but we experience it when I haven't had a chance to do a spacewalk yet. I'm still waiting and hoping for that. But when other guys did, and they came back in, after we repressurized and opened up the volume for them to come back into the station, there's this really, really strong metallic smell. And I don't know exactly what it is. Something to do with maybe atomic oxygen interacting with the suit materials, or we're not exactly sure what it is. It's a very distinct smell, and it's the smell of space. It's really cool.
When you come in from a spacewalk, you're surrounded by the emptiness of space. It's sort of like the opposite of air. There's nothing there at all. When you quickly repressurize the hatch and you open up the hatch and you smell, what is that lingering smell from a place that used to be exposed to space? The smell in there is a little bit like that trace of a smell of gunpowder or burnt steak, or sort of like brimstone, like a witch has just been there. It's a cool, lingering trace of a smell. I think what it really is, brimstone, like sort of that metallic gunpowder fired smell, that a witch has just been there.
And he will imprison those angels who have shown unrighteousness in that burning valley which my grandfather Enoch had formerly shown to me in the west among the mountains of gold and silver and iron and soft metal and tin. And I saw that valley in which there was a great convulsion, and a convulsion of the waters. And when all this took place, from that fiery molten metal and from the convulsion thereof in that place, there was produced a smell of sulfur, and it was connected with those waters. And that valley of the angels who had led astray mankind burned beneath that land. And through its valleys proceed streams of fire, where these angels are punished, who had led astray those who dwell upon the earth.
And God said, "Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters." And God made the firmament, and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so. And God called the firmament heaven. And the evening and the morning were the second day.
The weird part about it is space is so incredibly black, so incredibly dark. It's a bottomless pit of deep black, almost so deep it almost has a texture when you look at it. And
Even darkness which may be felt.
The Crew Dragon. The Crew Dragon to get us from Earth to low Earth orbit. The Crew Dragon, the Falcon 9 rocket into space. Crew Dragon, Crew Dragon, Crew Dragon, now here on the International Space Station.
Orbiting laboratory. Work is being done up there.
The International Space Station is outside the Earth's atmosphere in space. Tricky spacewalk. Astronaut on the International Space Station to help keep the space station running. Maybe you're working on the toilet to understand dark matter to space and thawing out, human cells to return that science to Earth's microgravity laboratory. It's like 6,000 square feet up here in the International Space Station. There's a lot of other people up here. We're going to be here for 6 months. We're in it for the long haul, which is also very exciting.
Spacewalks and using tools in space.
The Artemis program.
The Artemis program.
The Artemis program and the work that we do right here on the International Space Station. Been an astronaut, oh gosh, I'm just not going to be any good at that. Space station, we're looking back billions of light years. It's kind of mind-boggling.
To the space station.
I experienced some nausea.
How is sleeping in space?
Because you're just floating. It's not used to just floating. And so it does feel a little weird.
Floating up in space.
Our planet is 2/3 covered in ocean. Of course, I love to look out the window at our beautiful planet. It's lovely to look out the window and watch the world go by. Well, it's got to be floating. You can just kind of perch up on the wall. I can just hop over to the side and just find a nice little perch to sit on board the space station.
What does it smell like in space?
So that's an interesting question. So it smells like people up here. It's not really fresh air. When people went out to do a spacewalk and then came back inside, I smelled the smell of cooking meat. It smelled like hamburger to me, which was so strange. And that smell is the smell that space smells like hamburger. It smelled like hamburger to me, which was so strange. We have so much fun up here. It's just a great time up here. I smelled the smell of cooking meat, and we're getting paid for it.
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 Maybe you're working on the toilet. And so it does feel a little weird. Oh gosh, I'm just not going to be any good at that. And we're getting paid for it, 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 paid for it. I smelled the smell of cooking meat. It's kind of mind-boggling. And we're getting paid for it, paid for it.
The beast that thou sawest was and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit and go into perdition. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was and is not and yet is.